The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
This morning, welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, your station for fresh news, smart talk all day. My name is Erin Mangola Greene, and welcome to On the Clock. On the Clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the Clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of June, 2021, and today's show is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. Some quick business here. If you missed the opportunity to save on your real property tax during the first round of the Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program, well, the program has been extended. Bahamian property owners can now take advantage of waivers on their real property tax in one of two ways. Bring your account to zero or get a payment plan. Foreigners can receive a 100% waiver on surcharge. Offer ends August 31st, 2021. For further information, email rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs or call 242-225-5778. That's a toll-free number. This message is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. Good morning. There is so much in the news this morning. I almost had to call my guest and tell him we have to reschedule. I got to talk. My guest say, no, ma'am. He said, from yesterday afternoon, I was in the garden with the plants, and I done tell them we're going to be on the radio. I done set up the radio so they could hear it. We can't postpone this show. So we're going to get into some of what's in the news this morning, and then we are going to talk agriculture and the summer heat. Everything you need to know about what to grow in the summer and what not to grow in the summer. Sorry about that. There's somebody now, one of them Chickchanis calling from my mango tree. I used to have Chickchanis garden my trees all over New Providence, particularly in the area I live in. And I got a letter from a lawyer yesterday, right? And it was a cease and desist order. And I was like, first of all, I don't carry on no business to have to stop it. It was from a Mr. and Mrs. Reginald Raccoon. And these boy, I mean, look here, my neighbors, they lovely people, you know, except for the fact that they're raccoons. Mm-hmm. They're great, right? They wanted to know why I on the radio talking about how they just eat all my mango. They say, as a matter of fact, they need me to stop because I'm lying. They don't eat the mango. They tell me they know who's eat the mango. They just eat the dilly. Right? And they say, listen, don't be disparaging us like that. Anybody with sense know that the raccoon will go for the dilly before it go for the mango. Right? And I said, but look here, and the only thing I wrote them back a letter, right? I wrote them back and I said, the only thing I want to know is who is your lawyer? Because the Bar Association wish they had lawyers on point like your lawyer. Right? The Bar Association must see run out of lawyers. The lawyers must see on sabbatical. Like all 2,000 plus of them must be on sabbatical because we waiting for the judicial community, right, in the absence of information from the government, to create a framework so that the ordinary people, right, that don't understand the legalese, don't understand the legal language, right, and that heavy policy language, could understand the changes in the law that we're experiencing right now, right? We could understand which ones are temporary, which ones are likely to be permanent. How do we adjust our lives, right? These are the things that people really, really want to know. They don't just want to know that the law has changed. What they want to know is, what does that mean for me and my personal movement? What does that mean for me and my ability to make money? For instance, on one of the shows yesterday, an issue was raised, right? If the curfew is lifted at 5 a.m. in the morning, how do I get from my house to the airport to be on time for the 5 a.m. check-in, right? Is my passport and my ticket sufficient evidence for the police that I have to be on the road at this time? What are people supposed to do? And how are parents supposed to help their children navigate this change in the way that we do things? Well, it's not the lawyer's job to read the government's mind and tell us what they're thinking, right? But you could be very helpful. It'd be very helpful if you created spaces where people could come in, like a little constituency legal aid clinic, where people could come in and make sure that they're making the right decisions. And people don't want to be on the wrong side of the law, but people don't have the time to go to law school, to learn the legal language, to go to government printing, to find all the laws, to figure out how one law contradicts with another law. People don't have the time. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and I know yesterday's new radio shows were lit with discussions about the appeals court or the citizenship decision in the AG versus Shannon Tyreek Roll case. And there is a wonderful segment in The Guardian with an excerpt from the interview with Nahaja Black and Wayne Monroe yesterday. And that, my friends, is worth reading. Oh, yeah. Monroe questions logic behind employers ending free COVID-19 testing. And I had some other questions vis-a-vis vaccinations and yesterday's announcement of Vaccination Day. And the first question is this: what exactly is Vaccination Day? Like, is it an actual holiday? Is it what is it? Because you said it was something, and there's a lot of build up to it. Was it yesterday? Was yesterday the Vaccination Day holiday when you announced some of the relaxations in the COVID protocols, but not actually, I don't know. Was Vaccination Day yesterday? Now, there's a second question. There is no doubt that this Vaccination Day policy is discriminatory. Now, the Constitution permits some measure of discrimination, but does this new policy fit the limit, right? Does it fit within the limit of the discrimination that the state can engage in, or does it go too far? Does this make sense given the science and the advice of the medical community? I'm sure Dr. Forbes was on the paper yesterday or on Friday saying that we're still in the midst of the third wave. Why are we relaxing restrictions, and on what grounds? Is Vaccination Day a distraction from the budget, right? Because I get the feeling that it's a distraction. Or is Vaccination Day really, at the heart of it, a tourism policy? Right? Because I don't know if we have enough citizens fully vaccinated to warrant this relaxation, right? I don't know what the state's timeline is, right, in terms of when they will receive vaccinations, when they expect to reach benchmarks, like we expect to have 70,000 people fully vaccinated by this point in time. I don't know. And then I have a more important question. I don't even know if I have the strength to ask it, right? But is this ethical? Is giving vaccinated people perks that amount to an inequality, right? Is that ethical? As I would ask if it's legal, but we don't really care about what is legal in this town. Well, I know y'all don't care about the law. And we know it's only one thing that runs this country, and it's not the rule of law, and it's not respect for law and courts, right? Is this ethical? What happens when the global scientific community says booster shots are necessary? What is required to keep the perks, right? And what happens when a vaccinated person who has lived this sort of relaxed life, not so many protocols, when it comes to time to get their booster shot, or booster shot is required to maintain vaccination, but the government can't access booster shots in country? What happens to that class of people? Are they now relegated back to the class of the unvaccinated, where they can't do things no more? And I think one of the most important questions, but I don't know if it's the most important questions, but like, what? Okay, if the vaccination day vaccinated people policy is necessary to save lives, right? And the government cannot legally force people to take the vaccination, what protections are put in place to protect unvaccinated people from vaccinated people? Example, an unmasked, vaccinated person, knowingly or unknowingly COVID positive, that refuses to follow social distancing protocols in public. Who is responsible? Who is liable? What are the penalties for that person? I'm not here to tell you to take the vaccine or to not take the vaccine. That's not my job. My job primarily is to govern myself. And to do that, I need access to more information. Other people need access to more information. And if this whole state of emergency and pandemic is so urgent a matter that it required the restriction of the most fundamental, right, outside of your right to life, the most fundamental human right, which is the freedom of movement, surely it's urgent enough to have a policy written on paper that ordinary people could access, that the people that work for you could explain to the ordinary people on the drop of a hat, that the people who are still getting paid with taxpayer dollars could access easily and give information to the Bahamian public. In fact, the airwaves should be flooded. ZNS should now be the state of emergency channel. It should run like public broadcast, allowing people to share information, but also flooding the airwaves with information. How could you sit back and complain about fake news and people promulgating and perpetuating false information You have a whole media house. You have a whole national communications infrastructure at your hand, at your disposal to share information with your people. And I don't know if you're doing that. Now look here, if you call and you tell me the people who did hijack the servers, right? That they ain't give us the service back. If you call me and tell me the hijackers say, cheapest, y'all just throw the computers away. This don't make any sense. And we can give you $20,000 to buy some new computers. If you told me that, I'd feel better. But you have a whole communication system. ZNS, television and radio. You have BIS, which can handle social media, right? Like the internet side, the online side. But yet, we sit here with Vaccination Day. Look at the picture on the Guardian. It don't even make any sense. This seems to me like somebody running the country like a tuck shop, but y'all are getting paid as if you running the country like a major resort. Something need to add up. Something need to add up. Okay, I'm running out of time there. I think we're going to get into my agriculture section. Let me tell you why. Because if I start talking about this Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Grand Bahama Partnership today, I don't know. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. Because this is also a very, very important story. See, while I sitting here trying to own all the mango trees in the country, other people around here trying to own other things that I didn't realize was as valuable as mango. Because, I think mango is the most valuable thing in the world. We can talk about that tomorrow. Come here, it's a great time to get to a break. Oh, wait, pause there. 1 second, here's the text. The text says, please, stop the slapping up. The info is available. We're always finding excuses to coddle these Bahamian people. They can find info about every sale in the U.S. and gossip about everyone else in the country, but when it comes to the vaccine, all of a sudden, everyone ignorant, confused, and has no access to information. Oh, please. So you tell me, texter, where was I supposed to find the policy for the protocols? Like, is that, I use this word white paper because that's a fancy word that politicians use, right? But is there a document that outlines a framework, like a skeleton framework for the state of emergency, right? And then they go in and they fill it in. Is there a policy? Is there anything? And I know you're going to tell me you could go to the office of the prime minister.gov.bs and you could find it. Well, is it working properly now? Okay. Right? Is the website properly designed with providing ease of access to information? Are the documents clearly outlined and labeled? Right? Is it easy to get to on my phone? Do you know how difficult it is to download 30 pages of something and then try read it on my phone? Can I go to my constituency office and get a copy of it? Could I go to my constituency office and print it out from my own phone so I could sit down with one or two people and look at it and parse it out? Boy, look here. I'm going to spend just another 30 seconds telling you this is a joke. I spent 10 years of my life calling cabinet office to tell them that the phone system in various departments are not working to the point where the people know my name because they know my voice, because they know my mother's voice, and they know she would be too professional to call in on her own job and tell you all the things ain't working. Right? You talk about ease of access to information. Y'all are joking. Y'all can't be serious. You can't even find a space. You ever tried to pull up a law from the government's website? Being unlearned, you don't know nothing about the site, the system. You ever tried that? Do you all understand what it means to provide a service to the public? To people who don't know what you do? They don't know how you do it. They only know that they're supposed to come here and get it. And you're really kidding yourself, because yes, we can find examples. We can find examples of departments and ministries and units that provide stellar service, you know. We could do that. There are places I could go right now, right? But is that the average experience? And are these people working in a culture that understands and is prepared to provide access to information to the people they serve? Is that the culture the civil service is rooted in right now? I don't think so. Now, don't come on this radio and talk about it's just easy to get information and y'all just don't want to look and you want to go and gossip about other people. Y'all can't be serious, man. To the stellar people out there, to the civil servants that are doing their jobs, that are working hard, that are calling people back on their lunch break, that are running from office to building to find the info. We thank you. We thank you. To the people who act like they holding the Queen's treasure, the truth is you are. You're the civil service. You're the Queen's Army. That's your job. Your job is to hide the information from us. But don't pretend like you ain't trying to hide it. Don't pretend like the act of letting one person hold the key to the filing cabinet and not making that one person leave the key when they out of office. Don't act like that don't happen still. Or that we have a whole government a whole government department, right? Where you're supposed to go, like the archives, I think it is, where you're supposed to go to be able to access information, right? That should be open to the public. But you got to go to a private business and pay them to access the information. You hear what I'm saying? The information that's supposed to be archived, a public record, right, by the government. This service has now been outsourced, and now you have to pay people to access. You have to pay beyond the basic administrative fee that you would have paid the government to access the information. This is not a culture of transparency, honesty, and accountability that you're all operating in. You talk about slapping up. Somebody needs a pay cut. You all notice that I didn't talk about that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I stopped talking about politicians taking a pay cut. But guess what? You all need a pay cut. Another text there, Ms. Greene, I'm not taking an experimental vaccine that has only been authorized for emergency use, only unless my life is in imminent threat. And with COVID-19 death rate at only 0.07%, I will not be taking the vaccine. That's my personal choice, and I should not be discriminated against because of my decision, period. Thank you for that text. That's how a lot of people feel, right? That's how a lot of people feel. I just want the government to understand that this vaccination protocol discussion cannot be like the Carnival Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line discussion, right? Where the people sort of who's supposed to be at the center of it, which is the people who have to take the vaccine, are sort of treated like it don't have nothing really, the important decision-making part don't have nothing to do with them, right? Like in the same way, it turns out that when Dionisio de Aguilar, Minister of Tourism and Aviation, confirmed that the ITM Group and the cruise line want to seal, quote, the entire transaction at once, close quote, to protect their commercial interests and not hand an advantage to either Freeport Harbor Company or the government. Full stop. This is pulled from an October 27, 2020 Tribune Business article by Neil Hartnell, right? I don't want it to be like that, where the company could come in and say, like, we don't want to give the government any advantage, as if the government is not the representation of the people, right? So we don't want you to do it like that. The vaccination protocol cannot be handled like that, nor with the same legal political culture. We demand something different. That honesty, accountability, transparency that you campaigned on, now is the time for that.
But it's also looking like the privileges are only here, the perks for this particular vaccine. Because apparently, certain places in the States, because this is a trial vaccine, you're not getting access into operas and theaters and places like that on this particular vaccine that we have in this country.
So my guest today is Mr. Phil Davis Jr. And so what you're saying is that because the AstraZeneca vaccine has not been even approved for emergency use in the U.S., that there are businesses that are restricting access to people who are vaccinated with that particular vaccine.
Correct.
Right? And so that's the type of information that somebody who is gung-ho for vaccination would want to know, right? If I'm taking this particular vaccine, how is this vaccine treated in other jurisdictions I am likely to travel to? Will a vaccine protocol established in the Bahamas be acceptable in the U.S., right? Will Bahamians who were vaccinated in the U.S. be recognized as vaccinated people in the Bahamas? These are all questions that people should be able to ask and have answered. Another text here, Ms. Greene, that great institution, University of the Bahamas, should be doing more to help document Bahamian information and uploading it to the Bahamas. You are absolutely right. The University of the Bahamas could step their game up. They have created a new research center. They are doing tons more research. But here's the sort of funny thing about it. They're doing the research, right? And that takes time. And then you need people who could talk about why the research is important and bring that conversation to the wider public, right? It takes all kinds of elements. And to the government, you got people who are ready to take your information to the wider public. You got all kinds of civil society organizations, but we need access to the information. I see we got a caller on the line. Oh, it's just somebody teasing me, pretending like they calling me about mangoes.
Might have been the raccoons.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, look, I have to call my lawyer on these raccoons. Well, listen, I got two more texts and then we're going to roll into this break quickly. New York initially excluded AstraZeneca, but has since changed that policy. We need to tell the entire story. There are many moving parts. Okay, so you're saying that New York State has now approved AstraZeneca, right? But what about the federal government? Because the particular question about crossing borders is specific to the federal government. And these are the sorts of things that people need to know. I'm not telling half the story, a part of the story. I'm telling what I know and asking for more information. And we don't just need the government to do it, you know. Private sector groups could take on the challenge of assisting the government by creating mechanisms where people can access information that's verified by trusted sources. I see we got a caller on the line, Kermit. Ah, boy. I am sorry, caller. One last text. Good morning, Miss Greene. Does the something blank know that they can't take the vaccine if they are already in danger? It doesn't work like that. You take the vaccine to prevent great danger. That's my understanding. By the way, I'm not taking the experimental vaccine either till they get it right. Okay, because you missed a word out at the top there, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. What I do know is that people who have already experienced COVID may experience severe symptoms from the vaccine, right? And then there's the question people really want to know, which has not been answered clearly yet. If I have already had the virus, and if I've had it twice maybe, why would I need to take a vaccine?
But they're not even testing the plasma in our blood. They're not doing it.
Boy, right? There are just so many questions that we don't even have an appropriate, curated, like well-crafted and designed space to ask questions in. And we need to be able to ask questions. It's just another very quick thing about the vaccines before we go. There's a question of, are employers forcing or coercing staff to take the vaccine? That's why, like I said, I think it's a great idea to turn into The Guardian today and read the article about the interview with Nahaja Black and Wayne Monroe yesterday. This is an important issue that needs to be addressed. And here's one of the reasons why, right? Pensions and insurance policies in jeopardy, right? If I am forced to leave a job because I don't want to take the vaccine. And I want to know, what is the public service? I think we want to know, what is the public service policy revaccinations? Because if the government is not going to require civil servants to take the vaccine, then why are private employers requiring their staff to take the vaccine? And this is just the last matter right here. This is why the issue of whether the director of labor is running for Fox Hill is an urgent matter. Now, let me repeat that question. This is why the issue of whether the director of labor is running for Fox Hill is an urgent matter. Does it not become an issue until he is officially ratified, right? Because surely the director of labor has an ethical duty to demand a clear statement from the government on behalf of all of the employees in country. Now, I can quote you, when asked by Eyewitness News whether he's seeking the nomination for the seat, Pinder said, I have been asked and interviewed if I will consider it. I told them I would give it consideration, and I gave them an ultimatum under which circumstances I would consider that. Mr. Pinder told the Tribune, this is like April 10/21 and April 12/21. Mr. Pinder told the Tribune yesterday he's always wanted a political career, and more so an opportunity to represent the people of Fox Hill. I'm presently working it out to make a determination, but I know once I nominate, I would have to resign from the government. So this is why the question of whether John Pinder is running or not in Fox Hill is important, because now we have to ask, is the director of labor compromised? Why has he not issued a statement vis-a-vis policy regarding employers and employees and vaccinations? This is why we need a unit, a mechanism, an organization, something, a bureau whose job it is to focus on collecting, parsing, that means like reading through it and making sure it makes sense, documenting, collating, and disseminating. That means making sure, not just publishing it, but making sure it gets into the hands of people, the information that people need to make sensible, informed, and healthy decisions about their lives. I don't know what vaccination day is. It isn't no cake, and it ain't no refreshment or nothing. It ain't no real perks either, because as far as I know, I already have the right to freedom of movement. So I don't understand how you telling me I could have the right to freedom of movement is supposed to be some kind of perk. Mm-hmm. All right, Kermit, I stop. I'm ready for that break. I need a small break, a costume change, and after the break, Erin, my Greene, will be joining you on the clock. So stay tuned to 96.9 FM. We'll be right back.
I've been representing all my life. I'm getting ready to make it count this time. Since it's 2021 for your family line, you better get ready. It's about that time. So tell mama to be ready. Tell it to the whole family. 2021. This one's for everyone.
COVID 19. Do not panic. Be prepared. If you plan to travel, keep updated on travel advisories from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Be sure to wash your hands often and have travel-sized hand sanitizers and disinfecting wipes readily available. Keep your distance from persons who are coughing and sneezing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. This can help protect you from COVID-19 infection and other respiratory diseases.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Good morning and welcome back to On the Clock with Erin Greene. You're tuned into 96.9 FM. I would like to thank you for all of these texts. We're going to get to all of them. We may be having some issues with our telephone line, but don't stop calling. Don't stop trying. You can call us at 323-6232 or 325-4316 or 325-4259. And I'm going to suggest you start with 325-4259. You can text us on the Guardian Radio text line at 422-GR96. That's 422-4796, and that's powered by BTC. Standard text rates apply. You can download the Guardian Radio app for your Apple or Android smart devices and listen to our audio feed or watch us on our video feed right there on the Guardian Radio app. You can listen on TV on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 or Flow Channel 612. And we're always streaming live audio and video on GuardianTalkRadio.com. If you're tuned into my Facebook feed to see my smiley face, you can't see it today because the camera is pointed at Mr. Phil Davis Jr. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Look here, I just gonna need you to tell your stepmother, Miss Anne Marie Davis, that I done borrow you. You is my agriculture man now, especially after the statistic you read off to me before we went on air. Let's start right there. Tell us that again.
Right there from Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Speak right into the
Oh, sorry
mic,
about
yeah.
that. So speaking from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it dictates a 1% decrease in food security leads to a 15% increase in domestic violence. And if we saw that in the pandemic going through about 6 to 8 months in, when everybody was hitting the wall, not being able to go to the food store, not having that disposable income because the job was laid off or furloughed, we found that the statistics from our crime went up 13.2. So the correlation was right there.
Look here, 1% decrease in food security, right, leads to a 15% increase in domestic violence, and I would say gender-based violence, but because we're confined to home, that's really sort of the space within which it's happened, eh?
Correct.
Wow. And so, look here, thank you for that stat. I talk about agriculture because agriculture is at the root of everything, right? At a national level. If you can't feed your people, you have a national security issue. At a communal level, if you can't feed your people, you got a crime issue that's about to explode. And at the personal level, if you can't feed yourself or your people, the people you produce with your own body, then you go into that sort of psychological crisis mode.
Start to panic. Any little thing starts to trigger you off. Your child coming and asking for extra juice or something like that, and you don't even have water in your fridge, it's going to cause you to snap on the child. Certain things is going to happen.
Absolutely. And I want Bahamians to take a moment and just think, like I could say this in my heart, right? There was never a day where I cried or I didn't know where I was going to eat. It's never a day. So I want Bahamians to understand that if you live in that life, you have to practice empathy and put yourself into the shoes of people who are living that life and forget the judgment.
Yeah.
Forget you put yourself in that situation. First of all, People rarely do that. And young people, I mean, you saying to me that from the age of 10 to 16, right? That's enough time to prepare yourself for the world, man, and for all the challenges ahead of you. Nah. So I say to young men, right? Like whenever I see them, I pasteurize them. The other day they asked me, how do I show love to man? And I see young men, I give them every idea I can in that moment, especially easy ways to make sure you could feed them children you make.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So it is summertime and it is hot. Tell us, most people are going to, at this time, they're going out to their gardens and they're looking at what they're going to pull out, right? Because they say, oh, it's not going to survive the heat. But I want people to sort of pause for a second when they go out there looking at their hot summer garden and shift their perspective on what they're looking at. So the first thing is, I guess we could talk about what are the things that you can grow in the summer.
All right, you're basically looking at things that'll germinate after the 85-degree temperature. So you've got things like peppers, tomatoes, radish, beets,
Eggplant?
corn. Eggplant is definitely on the list.
Yeah.
Most of your cruciferous family.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what cruciferous means.
Cruciferous is just the four-petaled flower, and this is actually the sign of the cross. And these are the foods that are beneficial to us. So all of your radish, your cabbage.
Okay, so
your
wait.
beets.
This is science here. So what you're saying is any flower, any fruit or vegetable plant that flowers and has a four-leaf pattern on the flower is a cruciferous, and they could survive the heat.
They are actually one of the best vegetables to grow.
So
it's the parable of Jesus Christ. Buried, return in 3 days. Any cruciferous seed is guaranteed to germinate in 3 days.
So look here, when I go in the yard and I say Jesus Christ is hard, expect a voice to say, I already on it.
Yes.
I got this, Miss Nature.
Goosebumps, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I hope you all hear that. Any seed you put in the ground, any cruciferous, you put it in the
cruciferous.
ground. Now, do I have to plant it at a certain time of the month?
No, I actually grow cruciferous vegetables throughout the year. And we're talking about the heat tolerance and stuff.
Yeah.
Lettuce and stuff won't grow here. So 85 degrees, it goes to bulk, it'll get bitter, and it starts to seed. I grow Chinese cabbage instead of lettuce, and it actually has more nutrients in them as well.
Right. Like I grow a heat-tolerant type of spinach. It grows like a tree. And once we begin hitting October, November, the production drops.
Because of the cooler weather.
And coming off the ocean and the salt, it doesn't like that. But right now, I got some spinach leaves like big as twice my hand. If y'all could see it on the Facebook, right? Wow. Okay, so what plants can I leave in the ground throughout the summer?
Throughout the summer, I mean,
Yeah.
you can leave any of your plants in the ground. It's just how you are going to acclimate them to the heat. So things like covering up with a netting, giving them extra water, making sure that you're giving them more nutrients or fertilizers so that they can sustain the heat, because the heat will bring everything out of it.
Right. Now, I can leave, that's how I could leave them in the ground.
You can leave them in the ground by tending to them more.
Right, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that type of work. I'm talking about things I could just leave in the ground, forget about it, and then when it starts to cool down again and the vegetable season starts again, they ready to pump. I like the Bahamian government. I ain't into maintenance. I ain't into maintaining buildings. Are there plants like that like are hardy? So in the summer, I don't need to go back to that field as often, but I know by the time September rolls around, the plants are still good.
Nah, unfortunately, not really. When you're dealing with vegetables and not really plants,
Yeah.
you really are looking at a maturity of 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. So regardless, by the end of 3 months, 4 months, you're going to have to crop rotate anyway. So you're going to have to pull them out, and also it's better for the ground, because even if you leave something in the ground for about a year, year and a half, 2 years, it's going to pull out all the nutrients in that spot, and that particular plant will not be productive as when you first started.
So I guess can't be a lazy farmer.
No.
Darn
No.
it. It's good. I mean, so what about asparagus, right? Can asparagus, well, first of all, can asparagus grow here for real, for real?
I will bring you some tomorrow. I've been growing asparagus for over 7 years.
You growing it in a greenhouse, in a protected space, or you growing it in the rock?
In the rock, right there in the ground. And you hardly water that one too. So that holds in most of its nutrients and stuff too. But with asparagus, if you don't watch that carefully, they grow 6 inches every day. And by the third day, you cannot eat the spur. It's too hardy. So you literally have to pick it on the second day by watching it. Around November, December, you're cutting down the whole asparagus plant from straight down to the ground so that it can regenerate and grow back itself. So yeah.
Every day it grows 6
6
inches?
inches.
Okay, but from what point? Like not from I put it in the seed in the ground and it pops up?
Well, I haven't planted from seed, and it's going to take, if you do from seed, it takes up to 2 years before you can actually harvest off of it. But asparagus is a plant that's going to last you 24, 26 years.
So asparagus is like pineapple?
Somewhat.
All right. Is asparagus in the bamboo family?
No, I think it's closer to the fern family.
Closer to the fern.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that prolific growth rate
Correct.
is like bamboo.
Yeah.
Wow, look here, bamboo. Don't grow bamboo if you're lazy like me. Right?
And it'll take over too.
yeah, like
Bamboo will
invasive.
spread and take over. The roots will just spread. It grows from the crown, same way as the asparagus.
All right, now, bamboo is more of something that you grow for manufacturing, right?
Correct.
And industrial. So whether you're making furniture or you're making fabric, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you say that it's invasive and its root system can be problematic.
It is very problematic.
Is it worth creating a bamboo industry though, like growing for commercial purposes?
Specifically in the Bahamas, yes. Because we're close to the coastal line, so when we build our homes and you put the steel rebars in the walls and the salt air goes in there, that's where you get corrosion, your walls start to
So
crack.
I'm going to use bamboo coverings for my rebar?
Or just the bamboo itself.
Look at this, look at this. See now that you've said that, right? To my texter that mentioned University of the Bahamas. Now I need somebody to go to the University of the Bahamas and test the viability of in a commercialized industrial bamboo grow for construction purposes.
Correct.
Right, especially if in a hurricane belt, we decide that we're going to engage some indigenous and building techniques where we don't expect certain parts of the building to last more than 2 or 3 years, or we expect it to be destroyed by a storm, but it
Correct.
can be easily rebuilt.
Correct. And then we have all the other resources to complement it, like the calcium carbonate.
All
making
right.
sure that we have watertight concrete.
All right, I got a question here from you. Ask your guests if pistachios could grow in the Bahamas.
Anything can grow in the Bahamas. Anything can be acclimated to our climate. So once you have the patience and you figure out whatever strain or seed and try them out, you can grow it.
Look at that. I mean, if you all hear me pausing, that's as I stunned and my cogs are turning, right? Pistachios.
Yeah, because we've been growing peaches and strawberries and blueberries and stuff like that they said couldn't grow here.
Right.
They
And
grow.
then and that's I'm going to say like everybody should know this because somebody just told me this. In fact, I want to send a shout out to my neighborhood agriculturalist, Mr. Mins, who was just showing me the other day that they grow peaches in Israel. And the way they grow the peaches in Israel is they grow them in pots and they have a massive hanger. And for the days of required temperature below a certain point, they
chill.
put the trees to chill. So they go in the cooler for 3 months and hang out and chill out till they hit that desired point, and then you bring them back out. Imagine we could do that too.
Just like planting the blueberries here. You put the blueberry seeds in the fridge and you germinate them from there.
Look at that. And I get another text says, "Hi, is this information being taught in schools?" Well, I don't know, Mr. Davis, are you teaching or are you doing any sort of extracurricular or coincidental teaching with the schools?
I do pop-ups with some preschools and stuff,
All
but
right.
I'm actually in talks with BTVI now to put together a course.
Right, and I think Shaw had a program down at the Gladstone Road Agricultural Compound, and I know of at least Whitland Miller who was teaching in the government school system, and I know she was teaching agriculture, and I know that we have some government schools that have some awesome farms, and they're selling that produce to support the grow project.
Correct.
So it is being taught, but the question is this on a curriculum?
No, I don't. For right now, I don't think so. But there is Bamsey is doing a lot. There's Michelle Singh down there. She does a lot of Zoom meetings, informational stuff, tying in with the other universities in the West Indies and sharing information. So she's putting out a lot out there, but it's like you have to reach out. You
Yeah.
know?
Another texter says, in response to your point that anything can be acclimated to grow here, they say, so can a cocoa plant be grown here? And I think they mean,
Yeah,
if you mean the
cocoa bean,
chocolate.
chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can pretend that's what you mean. It could definitely grow here.
Yeah.
I don't even think that needs to be acclimated.
Right.
I think they're talking about the coca plant.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
We ain't interested in that.
that's native, eh?
It is?
Yeah.
Indigenous? Yeah, don't watch nothing. Y'all don't go in the bush looking for that.
I could actually show people.
Yeah,
where
no,
it
we
is.
don't want to know where it is. We can leave that one where it is. Because that's a part of an indigenous cultural practice as well. That's what people, really need to understand. It's you shouldn't just go start chewing coca plants.
But with the economics and politics associated with it. So if you're talking about the cocoa, the chocolate,
Yeah.
you know that Africans can't even sell it themselves. Nestle and the other companies have to get it first.
Yeah.
So if we take that, we pretty much would have to call it something else as well.
Well, you don't watch nothing. What are they going to do to us? What they can do? If we call it chocolate, they can tell us we can't call it chocolate?
Yeah.
Well, look at one more reason to end imperialism and bring down capitalism.
Yeah.
You could imagine some people in the world think that they own the word chocolate.
Well,
And on top of it,
I would love to see you produce tequila or champagne,
well, man, I already producing it.
and they call it something else.
Oh, so you're saying the word chocolate is trademarked?
They own the rights to the actual produce.
Oh, the cocoa bean,
Yeah.
the cocoa beans,
Yeah.
not the word chocolate.
Right. Same way. Most of the seeds in the world are owned by 3 companies: Monsanto, Jefferson, and one other one.
Not
So
the
if
U.S.
you-
government, because
so-
the U.S. government co-owns the patent for the Terminator gene with Monsanto.
And Bill Gates is the largest farm land owner in the world.
Yeah, like it's like almost like people think they could own food. Imperialism is something serious, eh?
But they do. If you trademark and patent the name of something, like for example, pink crimson tomato, you can't grow pink crimson tomato and sell it as pink crimson tomato.
Okay, look here. Stop right there. I am out of time. And you got to come back tomorrow. Tell the plants we got another show coming. I'm going to just try and spring through these texts dead quick. And these texts are from the earlier portion of our show. There we go. Excluded AstraZeneca meaning as a recognized vaccine to say you were fully vaccinated so you could attend operas, etc. The U.S. Embassy released a statement. AstraZeneca is still not approved in the U.S. Sorry, I wasn't clear. Thank you very much, texter. Another text here. No, Erin, that's not true. AstraZ is now accepted in the U.S. Just came out yesterday. That is awesome. Imagine that I had a government-devised app or website that I could turn to at the top of the morning to check the latest news vis-a-vis vaccinations. That would be awesome. But thank you for sharing the link to the story, and that story is on Eyewitness News and soon to be covered by The Guardian. Another quick text. The leader of the opposition is compromised on all things COVID ever since he just shipped and went out to the States and abandoned the Bahamian doctors and nurses. He can't tell me nothing about COVID. Okay, don't mind that this boy in the studio with me, The truth is, the PLP has a COVID unit that speaks, and so you're not listening to Brave Davis when the PLP party speaks on COVID. At the same time, I would like to see more from the PLP. The same thing I'm asking the government to do, the PLP could do it as well, relying on the same trusted sources, and they could then partner with the government. Look here.
I could speak personally on that too. The medicine that he needed wasn't here, and they weren't allowing it to come into the country, so he had to go to it.
And I don't think many people understood that dynamic of it. Thank you for sharing. Last text, I heard the PM congratulating Dr. Regis, and that's all good. But we should have gotten the vaccine, had our own version of a CDC, if only for this pandemic, to answer our questions rather than relying on the other countries for information, especially since we have a prime minister who always reminds us he's a doctor. Erin, there is bamboo trees in the government house yard on the Market Street side. Yes, bamboo trees all over the place. It's right in front of our eyes, staring and laughing at us. Like most plants do when we turn away from them without recognizing their beauty and glory. I am all out of time. Mr. Davis is going to be joining me back tomorrow. We could talk more about what to do when you have too much fruit to eat and give away, how to preserve, and what you can eat when your plant isn't producing fruit. Thank you for joining me today, Bahamas. Have a great day. Grab your Guardian, take a look. There's tons to read in there, tons to learn. Have a great day, Bahamas, and thank you, Mr. Phil Davis Jr.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.